Welcome to the channel Tribe. In this session of Ask Me Anything, we are having Sahil Puri discussing on all things SDET.
So welcome everyone. Once again, a formal welcome to this session on all things SDET with Sahil Puri. Sahil is a tech lead manager at SDET, SDET at Zupi. And before I begin, I would like to thank BrowserStack, our exclusive sponsor for all our events and our premium sponsor for all our conferences. Let me allow me to welcome Sahil Puri to you. So Sahil is a seasoned SDET professional with about 9.5 years of experience. He has worked with some of the marquee companies like Adobe, Samsung, Dream11, on which some of you would have made a team right now. Also farm companies like Google. Sahil is currently managing and leading a team at Zupi to create the best-in-class quality and automation ecosystem. He is extremely passionate about user experience, user-first development approach, engineering productivity principles, quality culture, processes, and CI/CD pipelines. With this and without much ado, I would like to call Sahil on stage.
Hey, hi everyone. Hi Ashutosh. Well, thanks for the humble welcome.
Good. How has the day been for you? Is it a tiring day?
Yeah, it's been nice. I have to miss a match. Yeah, I think that's worth it.
That's all right. One day, one match. I think the match got over a little early itself today.
Yes.
Good. Let's get straight into business. We are late already, and I think a lot of people are pushing their work day ahead today. So let's get started. Sahil, this AMA is on all things SDET, and my first question to you is who is an SDET in your understanding?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of myths or different forms of definition that we'll today find when we talk about who exactly is an SDET, right? So let's take 2 minutes and go back in time and understand how this SDET role came into picture. So the term SDET was initially coined in early 2000 by Microsoft and then subsequently picked up by other companies. So this was the time when also Agile manifesto was being framed and introduced. So the industry was going through a transition in terms of endeavors to improve the release velocity and also to basically be able to deliver to the client or the user in a much more agile way, right? And testing was a phase, if you see, where is that part of the funnel where things become really slow.
Yeah.
So any improvement here would have really improved the overall tech speed. So yeah. I believe SDET role was introduced in order to bridge the gap between QA and dev role.
Okay.
Right. Now, this bridge would have constituted, of course, automation, coding, reading, and writing skills, shift left, shift right, understanding the test pyramid, unit, integration, contract testing, and many other skills and deliverables that would have ultimately helped in improving the release overall release velocity and feedback times and so on. So, and over the years, this role has really evolved a lot and has been used in many forms across the industry. And finally, I am able to see some consensus among the companies over the R&R of this role, right? So a very apt definition of who is an SDET, which I read around few months ago, says that an SDET is an engineer who can play almost every agile role with a focus on quality and user experience. Right, and that's like the closest definition that I personally align myself with.
Okay, so that's a pretty interesting definition. An engineer who can play every agile role with a focus on quality, right? It's pretty interesting. I think there should be some myths getting cleared with this definition. We'll come back to this. We might come back to this. Okay. I think you've already talked about the evolution and the origin of the SDET role. Fundamental question, which now a lot of people are also asking in chat before I invited you here, was what are the skills required to become an SDET? And the supplementary question to this is how much coding skills is important to become an SDET? So primary question is what are skills required to become an SDET? and how much coding skills are required to become an SDET professional?
Cool.
Yeah.
So I think we can start with the skills. Normally, if you see any job description for SDET role, it sounds like such a wide list. And in reality, also there's a wide list of skills that companies expect when you apply for SDET role. But if we talk about the top few mandatory skills, that in my experience you definitely should have, before applying for such roles. I think the first and the foremost is the fundamental in the core of this role, which is you should be a great tester, your testing skills.
Okay.
So before learning anything, you have to clear your concepts of, the testing fundamentals, like what are the levels of testing, what are the different types of testing, how to follow the testing pyramid, and what are the different new processes that you can bring in order to, test better. That's it, right? The second is, and it's very interesting to see where does coding come even in this order, right? So the first was being a great tester. The second is having an end-to-end product understanding.
Okay.
Right. And this product understanding should be from the tech perspective, the engineering perspective, like what's happening behind the curtains, behind the scene, right?
Okay.
So this includes having knowledge about your front end or web application framework, having knowledge about your middlewares, what cache layers, what DB layers, what servers, what's the backend architecture that you're using, and then applying all of that to your daily test plans and test strategies, right?
Correct.
The third skill, again, product understanding, but from this time from a non-technical, or you can say business and marketing point of view. You have that's one more aspect that most of us miss, right?
Okay.
And then comes the requirement of being very comfortable around coding. It's like ability to read and write code, and having your basic fundamentals revised and OOPS concept revised. And again, I always use this term revised because we have all gone through the OOPS concepts and the fundamentals of coding somewhere or the other in our like education or previous years. So and then comes the practical knowledge of at least one automation tool, be it front end or back end or any form of automation, that would give an idea about the 5H and 1W of like automation, like when to apply, where to apply, what to do, and so on. So, and I think last but not the least, it's kind of a role which has its edges around all other different cross-functional roles. So you have to have a clear, concise, and confident communication.
Okay.
Right. And finally, the curiosity to learn and continuously evolve. Yeah, I think that would make the top mandatory list for skills.
I think in your answer you're given a lot of skills now. So let me just revise it for people so that they stay with us here. So saying, of course, which is paramount, and which I think you have dropped truth bomb here, is that for someone to become a good SDET, they need to be a master of the testing craft, which is like people in general in SDET tools forget that they should become better coders rather than become a master of their craft of testing first. I think that's an important truth bomb. And other two truth bombs which are very important is that you should be very aware about your technical product and your business side of your product. I think which is something which we as testers miss a lot. We don't realize the business value of our products. And then of course knowledge of tools, and then which will now I will turn it as your C4 soft skills, which is clear, concise, confident communications, and curiosity, right? So this you can make it as a jargon for this session. Cool. I think this is very helpful. And the supplementary question to this is how much coding skills is in your language is required? And somebody's actually asking is here, is DS questions on LeetCode enough to prepare for SDET role?
Okay, so
two questions again.
I see many questions. So let's go. Yeah. Let's spend few minutes and go deeper into the the aspect of coding. So as I stated earlier, you have to be comfortable around code. I have seen some test engineers having sort of a repulsion and kind of a fear of code, right? So let's be very comfortable around first reading code. So for that, what you can do is start reading code of an existing automation infrastructure in your company, or better than that, start reading the code of your developer or on the ticket or the feature that you are testing, and ask for the PR from the developer and understand what code is written. At the start you might not understand anything, so it might take a day or a week or a month or even a year for you to start understanding. But once you break that fear, that barrier in your mind, I think you'll be much more comfortable in having that urge now to write your own 10 lines of code, or first code. So that's the way you can be very smoothly introduced into the world of coding. That's like the first
Okay.
part where people face repulsion, and they're not able to cross that barrier. Now, how much coding, or how much DS question is required totally depends on the kind of role company that you are applying. But if on a generic level in the industry, you
Yeah.
see, having a logical mindset or the approach is very much necessary. So,
Okay.
like for example, if in an interview someone is asking a coding question based on a tree or a graph or a simple array, they are judging you on 3 or 4 points, and they are even marking you on 3 or 4 points. So it doesn't matter if you
Okay.
are even not able to reach a solution, you might pass the interview. So
Okay.
no time is perfect time, I mean to say.
Okay.
So those 4 or 5, we can quickly discuss, like, can be how much questions you asked after the interview tells you the original
Okay.
coding question, how
Mhm.
much what's your approach, are you comfortable with time and space complexity, are you comfortable
Okay.
with adapting a new approach halfway, what is your patience level as a techie, right?
Mhm.
And then after you have written or tried to write a code or think of a logic, what are the test cases you are able to see? Because after all, you are
Mhm.
an SDET, you're a test engineer. So
Mhm.
what are the
Mhm.
test cases you're able to think, and your way of communicating, and so on. So these are all the soft skills and personality traits that you are being judged on, even on a coding interview. So
Mhm.
what I believe again is to brush up your logical skills every day, either on
Mhm.
LeetCode or any such platform, and
Mhm.
slowly and steadily you will reach to that point.
Got it. Side question, and give us a crisp answer to this.
Sure.
So everybody has a patience point, right? So somebody might understand a developer's code on one day. Somebody might do it on 1 week, and somebody might take 1 month. Somebody might take 1 year. So people who do it on 1 day, 1 week, it's still okay. Okay, they understood in 1 day, 1 week. They're motivated. They're going ahead. But people who are not able to do it in 1 month, and people who are not able to do it in 3 months, for them to get demotivated is a natural thing to happen, right? How do they keep themselves motivated at that point of time to stay to keep learning and let's just be like a woodpecker who's pecking at wood continuously and just waiting for that hole to happen? What's the
I think
motivation mantra for? Yeah.
I think I know that you asked for a crisp example, but just one small one small comparison or example.
Anecdote.
It's like learning how to swim. It you might take again a day, a week, or a month, or greater than that. But once you break out of that fear of water, you'll start playing with it,
Yeah.
and you will develop your own method of swimming. That's exactly the anecdote I want to portray for coding. So yes, it might take a day or years or months. Some days would be you're not able to think of anything, understand anything, and the other day, next morning, you are able to understand everything. That depends on the state of your mind. So in order to keep yourself motivated, first of all, have that is like you have to change your mindset. It's
Mm,
You have to be ready to be out of your comfort zone, number one, and find the
mm,
right sort of mentors for you.
yeah.
Having platforms, having paid subscriptions, trainings is all one part that is very much required. But having the right set of mentors who motivate you in your low times and when you don't feel confident is the key, to be up
Got it.
in those low times.
Got it. Got it. I think for people, we are, the format here is that we'll keep asking some pre-collected questions which we have from the community. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop in Q&A tab. Whatever is relevant from the questions being asked, I will take it right away at the same time. Others, we will try and take as many at the back end of the session. So please feel free to write your questions and we'll plug in as and where possible. I think we have done a decent conversation here. There's one question which has just come, and which I think you can answer from your experience is when somebody enters into a new company, right? How does what's the recipe to get the technical knowledge or the business knowledge of the product in a more smoother way? Because there are people who are busy. There are people who are, even though you're assigned a training plan, people might be busy here and there, and they are not able to give you the enough knowledge which you want, right? But still, how do you get that initial knowledge of product and your product with business?
Okay, that's a very interesting question because the meaning of this question has changed, especially in work from home scenarios. Right.
Yeah,
Normally, when you go to office, you over here and sort of
yeah,
develop your knowledge from just entering into the groups or having lunch chats or
correct,
coffee chats. Right. But in a
exactly.
work from home scenario, this has become exponentially difficult, especially when you enter a new organization and a company, and that too when you enter a startup with less or no, almost no, documentation and already set up processes. So what I can tell you what I do or what I prefer if anyone joins in my team, as per my experience. So the number one is the first thing is to understand the product. Download the app, install the app, and as a user, try to uh, use the entire end-to-end product so that you develop the user experience and user understanding.
Correct.
And then use some debugging tools. Again, this might be very much specific to uh, the product having front ends, but yes, use some debugging tools like Charles or Fiddler, so that you can see what network calls are being made. So as to now what we are doing is connecting the product or the business to tech. Now we are seeing how the application or the product looks like on the front, and then trying to go into the back end, understanding how does that actually work. Now, the second most important aspect is collaboration and communication. So you have to uh, be kind of a professionally extrovert here and go out and reach out to people, leads, and service owners from each team, and not just tech, from marketing, from product, from project
Yeah.
management, and from customer service, and understand their role, understand what
Mm.
are the key highlight problem that they're facing today, and what can you solve, what can you bring to the table. And
Correct.
once you start that kind of channels, open those kind of channels and start collaborating with all the cross functional teams, including dev, I think that would
Correct.
open a like a flow of river of information for you both ways, and then you'll be able to swim from there.
Got it. Got it. I think that those are very valid points that you try the product yourself, use debugging tools, try to collaborate with as many people as possible, and then you will make a story out of all these different places which you're trying to pick here. I think that's an important point. Now, this is the next question is going to be, I think, the most popular question of the session. I think is, how does one transit to an SDET role? People have asked it already a lot, and people are still asking it.
Yes, I'm
So how does
yes, I'm
how
seeing
does
many.
yeah, how does one transit to an SDET role?
Hmm.
Uh, what is and what are the learning resources, or even to that extent, if there are any books which you can recommend to people? So, the first part is, how do you transit to an SDET role from a QA, and where do we get the skills from, and if there are any resources which you can recommend to people, including books?
Yes. So first of all, how to transition? That's, I think I'm seeing different flavors of this question in our chat.
Yeah,
So let's
yeah,
pick that up. Uh, uh, let's start by not assuming it to be a completely different role. SDET to be a completely different role than QA. Like they have mm, like an overlapping boundary. We have to understand that. So they are not eastern and westernmost points of the earth. So let's not overwhelm ourselves by seeing it as something like that. The second is we have to be very clear and break the myth that SDET is not just about automation. Yes, automation is a very integral part of SDET, but it is much more than that. It's a bigger role. It's a universe.
yeah.
So with that, I think let's also discuss how to make that transition while being on the job or playing your current
Correct,
role. Right.
correct.
So like as we discussed in the few minutes ago, also first change your mindset, be ready to get out of your comfort zone and find the right reason, find your reason to be an SDET, right? That would keep
Mm-hmm.
you motivated.
Mm-hmm.
uh, the second is, I think this we can all start from even tomorrow. Just go go to the office tomorrow and do what you have planned, but a one level deeper, like test what you have planned, but one level deeper, and connect it to three nodes. Like one is the engineering, one is the user impact, and one is the business impact, right? And understand whatever you are doing, how is it working from the engineering perspective, from the coding perspective, right? How is it helping your company to create value, to create business, to create revenue? And last, user impact, that will the user experience be enhanced when you release that feature to production? So when you when you compare or dig anything with these three nodes, you will be able to find much better and complex and hidden scenarios, and that would really help you to bring value to your organization. And this is the first step of being an SDET, practically speaking. Second, I think we have already discussed coding. Again, be very comfortable. Start with reading, writing code. Take small patches of code that you can write and understand, starting from loops to conditional statements, etc. And then try the platforms like LeetCode, HackerRank, HackerRat, in order to solve more complex data structure based algorithms. Yeah, I think after that, again, you can start asking questions. You can start try to find that opportunity to advocate about quality in different phases of a software development life cycle, right? From product management to project management to DevOps, customer service agent. So try to build those channels, especially if you're working in a product company, and make use of those channels. Holding the flag of quality is everyone's responsibility. That's our ultimate motto. So you have to ensure to build a quality focused culture in each of these cross-functional teams as well.
Functions,
right? And when you will be doing all the above points as we are discussing, I'm very sure that you will be falling short of time. You will be craving of something that gives you more time or saves your time. And now is the best time to introduce automation. So with its sole purpose of saving your time. So what you can do is start learning a tool as per the what you're working on the project that you are currently working on, and parallelly start automating it also with hands-on experience. So that would be the best way, and that would help you to also save your time and apply it on some meaningful task in your transition, in your project, right? And last is be very I think one thing is very important. I think the books, the resources, which way you find your passion and you find your habits linking to, I think be very updated about what is happening in the industry. You can subscribe to newsletters to keep yourself updated. You can watch tech talks, you can join these communities, attend the events, and investing this time is really worth it, because that would keep you relevant, keep you updated of what's happening in other companies and what other SDET engineers are actually doing and how they are implementing in their organization, so that you can take an inspiration and tweak it according to your project.
Yeah, I think that's a good insight.
I think one book that you think, the last book that I'm reading is is Leading Quality. So I'll share the links, and the illusions about a perfect software, and there is also one book by Pradeep Sandarajan, which is a very beautiful book of finding Buddha in testing, where it's based on finding your peace in this world of chaos. And I'm sure that every one of us would would relate. Yeah, definitely.
Got it. I think that's a good insight, and I think that's a good practice in general, is to first come out of your comfort zone and then start to do something within the org, within the realms of your controllable side. Outside our own org, our teams, our departments, our projects, the controllability is less, but controllability is high when we are looking at solutions to solve within our organization, and the risk is also less. I think that's a good insight in general. There are some questions coming around this, which I'll just ask. Is any specific language or platform we focus? I just shared this on stage. This is from Tushar. He says, any specific language or platform we should focus who are keen to enter as an SDET? any specific language which you want to, let's say, recommend, or there is a larger answer to this?
I think again, there is no one specific answer to this question. It depends on your current project, the language that is being used in your current company, so that you can contribute and bring value. That's the whole motive, right? So it's like it's a way of coding is a way of communication. You can choose any language. If you can learn how to communicate, you can either code in Java or JavaScript. You would not have any difficulty switching later. So that does not matter, to be short. Yeah.
Got it. There are a lot of questions coming on this topic. I think we should spend some more time, because I think this is the most relevant part for a lot of people who want to become SDETs. Shreya has this question. That is easy, intermediate, and hard. Which level of DS on LeetCode is sufficient to solve for SDET role? There's a quite focused question. This is objective type MCQ.
Thank you so much, Shreya. I think irrespective of the role, if you would ask for any task, if there are 3 levels, easy, medium, and hard, I don't think anyone would want to start with the hard first, right? So always start with the easy one. That's the best way to go. And if once you have completed the easy ones, I believe that you are ready to start with your interviews, start with applying, right? And parallelly, you can keep on practicing the medium ones. And yes, hard ones are rare to come by, especially when talking about the SDET role, but there can be exceptions. So you can parallelly continue your effort, but definitely easy ones are very much mandatory before you feel confident of applying.
Got it. So basically, you're saying you start with easy ones, start applying, see what the reaction is coming, and then raise your difficulty levels as you progress.
Yes.
Right? That's what you think. Got it.
Yes.
This is a question from Arvind. I think which might be a lot of question for a lot of people here. Is how to improve logical skills in coding effectively. Many times we just get it stuck in some for a long time and not able to think of any solution, which I think might be a very common case for a lot of people who are wanting transit, or let's say. So how do we let's say writers have that writer's block, where they can't write more. I think coders might have a coder's block where they can't think of any more solutions to a complex problem, or let's say simple problem also.
Yeah, I think the one solution to this problem, and I think every one of us have faced this. I have also gone blank when thinking about a logical solution in a coding interview. So the one thing that I always do is practice. It's like mathematics, which you have studied in your class 10th or 12th, right? As the more you practice, the more patterns your brain or mind will create, and the better you will be in your logical thinking and about problem solving skills. So keep practicing. If you see a new question that you're not able to break, kudos to you. Like that's like an achievement for that day, because you have learned a new pattern. Your mind has learned a new pattern, and tomorrow you'll be able to solve 20 such questions based on that pattern. So don't leave it. Come back from the interview, solve that one, and feed your mind with that pattern. I think you're good like for the next interview at least.
Correct. So there are 2 related questions. I'll put both of them on stage to you, and then probably you can take them as recorded as per your convenience. So this is from Gaurav, who's a QA engineer at Opal BPM. He says, can we start building the framework from scratch by watching the videos and learn the concepts parallelly for people who have basic knowledge? So that is one question. Loosely related question is this one also from Parth. He says, I don't know DSA and time and space complexity. How can we approach? I try to go through blogs, but confused with them. So people are saying, in a sense, that is it enough to just watch videos or read blogs, and will they be able to help us navigate to the end point? And if not, how do we navigate towards the end point?
So what was the first question? Sorry, Ashutosh, my net was a bit weak.
Yeah, no worries. I'll show it again, which is Gaurav's question. Can we start building the framework from scratch by watching the videos and learn the concepts parallelly for people who have basic knowledge?
Yes, definitely, like 100%. This is the way to go. Whenever you are trying to build a framework, don't try to build something which is top notch, or something that touches the level of perfection of development. Start with very simple framework. start with what it is ought to do, run your test cases, and then build upon it. Then it's kind of a continuous improvement loop. So yes, the answer is very much like what we have understood, that follow the videos, follow the people already created frameworks, open source GitHub projects, and try to build something similar to that, and then you can tweak according to your project and build upon that. And I think the second question was about the time and the code complexity, right?
No, the question was that I don't know time and space complexity, which is fair, which a lot of us don't know. And I go through blogs, but it gets confusing. How do we navigate through that confusion?
Yes, specifically speaking, Ashutosh, I think thanks to the person who has raised this question, thank you so much, Parth, for bringing this up, because I have myself taken up so many coding rounds where the person cannot answer or is not clear on the complexity front. So I think it's a specific problem too. Taking it on a generic level, I think there, if you're following, say, tools like YouTube or Udemy, there is a lot of content that is not ordered. So first of all, you have to choose what you can understand, and invest your time, and that will come with once you start a course and understand, like take what you are able to digest, right?
Yeah.
But again, I would say that if you're not able to understand something very specific, build your network, find the right set of mentors, and ask them 101 personally. And again, coming back to the specific code and time complexity, I have been able to explain this concept to a couple of people in 1 hour, and they were trying to understand it from the last 1 month. So that's how sometimes easy can it be if you hear it from someone else's mouth, right? Rather than going on videos or blogs. So, choose your source. That's what I can say.
Got it. I think we are getting a lot of questions. This might not end today, so but we'll still go. We'll still go through these set of questions which we have discussed. I think this is the question which we have right now, which people are asking also. How does a typical day of an SDET looks like?
Okay, so be it SDET or any tech role, to be very frank, it's very difficult to plan out a day, because even a single production bug can spill water on all our plans. But still, I'll try to jot down how an average day for an SDET looks like. So the first 5 to 10% time should go to your stand-ups on daily updates, and not more than that. The next around 10 to 20% would be going in meetings, or again collaboration with cross-functional teams. That includes your developers, your DevOps, your product project management, and all sorts of different teams, again with an attempt to ensure that the right quality culture is being maintained, and everyone is working and setting up goals with the right mindset, quality mindset, right? Then around 10% of your time would go into debugging and maintaining your automation scripts and builds. So and this is, I want to focus, because many times we leave our existing automation to rot while creating new automation suites or a better framework. So please spend at least 10% of the time in making your current automation relevant, and maintaining and correcting the failures and fixes because of the flakiness. The remaining 60% can be broken down into two major buckets. One is like 30% of your time would go in actually testing, using your intelligence to test a feature, running automation, reporting bugs, and then sending out the reports to all the stakeholders and risk reports, etc. And the remaining 25 to 30% would be spent on, that would be your focus time, and you would be either coding, like programming, and trying to automate whatever repeatable pieces of process and test execution that you can. So that's like an average day of an SDET.
Got it. The next question which I have for you, Sahil, is, and I think I will have a supplementary question to this, is what are the leadership roles or personal growth path for SDETs? That's the question which I have. And also, is the way forward is only to become managers, or can somebody grow as an SDET by not becoming a manager also? Can IC role be a, and how does someone grow as an IC role in a SDET career ladder?
Right, right. So I think starting with the first part of your question, I think I have seen this trend right now that many of the test engineers reaching 6 or 8 years of experience normally look out for different roles like TPM, PM. May or may not be. They are also concerned of this question that what are the growth paths in leadership. So that becomes a very important thing to discuss. Ideally, there was always a requirement for test leaders and managers. Always is, and there will always be. Now what has
Correct.
changed? Now, with the advent of agile methodologies, with a kind of an overhaul or the skill enhancement of the SDET role, what has changed is there is now a lesser demand for pure people's manager, and a higher demand for tech savvy, or you can say a technical sort of leaders and managers, which can guide the team through automation fundamentals, automation designs, testing fundamentals, and so on, right? Plus, I think even as we talk, there are hundreds of openings for the role of lead, EM, AVP, VP in SDET and quality on LinkedIn and other platforms even today. So I don't think that there is any dearth or scarcity of leadership growth in testing domain. Plus, the companies, and right from the startups to MNCs, have to create a ladder in order to sustain the role and in order to sustain themselves. So that's not a problem from what I see. The only thing that you have to now keep yourself updated and be more sort of a techie guy, right?
Got
And then the second part of your question, which is, yeah, if suppose if you don't want to manage a teams, definitely there are roles in the industry like staff as SDET, or principal architect, enterprise architect, and maybe test architect. So this sort of architect roles, as long as you are ready to technically guide the team, share your experience and knowledge of what to do and what not to do, right, to the
Yeah,
team, I think you bring value
that's true.
to the
That's true.
team and the company. So even if your company doesn't has this role, if you talk to your leaders and manager, they'll surely carve out a separate ladder for you if you
That's
bring
true.
enough value
Enough
in
value
any
to
way
it.
possible. So yes, it is 100% possible to stay in the IC role and stay relevant.
I think it's a very, very valid point, which I genuinely believe from my experience of, from my humble experience of about a decade, is that if you bring enough value, there'll be things carved out for you in any case. There'll be processes changed for you in any case. This can happen if you bring enough value to the organization. So that can happen. I've seen anecdotes like this happening, and this can continue to happen. Good. There are a bunch of questions on the skills, which will come back later. Now, important question. I think which might be a relevant question for a lot of us. Do you think pay scale for a SDET role is significantly higher as compared to a testing or automation profile? And what do you think is the difference, if at all there is a difference? If there's no difference, there is no difference.
Okay, so I was sort of avoiding these pay scales question today, but okay, let's try to discuss on that. So I think pay scale is in direct proportion to the value that you bring, again, as you said, to the table, to the organization, to the leadership, right?
Correct.
Now, as we discussed about the SDET role, the sort of skills and the roles and responsibilities that SDET must possess, it surely is bound to bring a more enhanced value to the leadership. So I think I would not shy away from saying that yes, once the role of SDET is on the higher pay scale charts of any organization. But let me also show you a different picture here. That testing as an entire role, has not always been in the top pay scales as compared to its tech counterparts. But now the things are changing because of this rise in, the demand for SDET role and quality engineering culture by most of the companies and leadership teams. I believe that the SDET role is reaching and breaching all the pay scale, levels,
Levels, yeah.
in the tech. So that's good news for us. Like that's a thing to
Yeah.
celebrate for everyone in our community, right?
Correct.
But yes, it has, as an effect, it might have created some internal segregations, but that
Correct.
is transitory, and that is for the good. Like it personally, it gives me an inspiration to upskill myself every day and keep myself updated, bring more value, and reach the standards which the SDET role has now created for all of us.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think that's a very valid point that this might just have triggered the beginning to have pay parities across. And I think we will keep our discussion on pay parities here because that's a little sensitive, touchy topic, and I think we have more important matters to talk. So this is a question from Radhika. I'm jumping this on between, but this has got a lot of upvotes. Sorry, Rashika. She's an SDET herself at TCS. Where to learn a framework creation from scratch for the automation? Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Rashika, for the question. So as I think as we touched upon this topic in the starting, you can follow any tutorial video or an open source GitHub project and start with a very simple framework. Start with what you are required to do. That is just basic enough to run your automation suite, automation chart, right? There is no need to, like, in the starting, to follow all the design principle at once, or to build something that is so top notch that it takes months for any new joinee or other person to take a KT off.
Correct.
So start from the very low level, from the very scratch, and I think it's continuous improvement of the framework as well as our own skills that would really help in building that like a true top-notch framework takes around 2 to 3 years to build.
Correct.
So that's why you have to start from the very basic, and again, don't be in a rush to use everything and anything that you see in your framework from the very start.
Got it. This is again an interesting question. We'll ask by a bunch of people. The exact question which I'll shorten this a little is primarily not being specific, is on DevOps. Just a minute. I'll just search for the question. I think there was a question on how much DevOps, what all kind of DevOps concept should an SDET know? Let's see. This is a question from Trishul.
That's a very relevant question, Trishul. Thank you so much. So I think the boundary between SDET and DevOps role is very much overlapping. If you to give a very practical example, what after you build or you create your 50 or 100 test case automation suite, right? The questions of like where do you run it, how do you run it, when do you run it, would comes from your DevOps knowledge. So you have to enter that world. You have to keep yourself very open to learning tools like CI tools like Circle CI or Jenkins. We very much comfortable around AWS. Tools like Docker and Kubernetes are very much necessary nowadays in order to not only create but maintain your own test environments, which is one of the one more very important aspect of your test automation engineering. So yes, all in all, you have to keep that space open, and there is an overlapping boundary. So yes, do learn about these tools when the need be and when the need arises in your current project.
Got it. Now this is a very interesting question from Shubham, and there are two questions related to this. Okay, what makes SDET and automation roles different? This is from Shubham, who works as QA for mobile coders. And then there's one question from Mahesh, which is about similar thing. Let me just grab this one. Just a minute. I think that one went away. Okay, this was the other question from Mahesh, which is about, you may have answered this in parts, but can you elaborate, give examples of SDET or role of SDET beyond usual automation tasks? So those two questions, difference between SDET and automation, and how does SDET's role transit beyond usual automation tasks?
Yeah, I think we have discussed a fair amount already when we are discussing that the transition journey as well as the skills.
Correct.
But let's go again and touch these points. Thank you, I think, Shubham and Mahesh, for the questions. So yes, definitely SDET is much more than automation. I don't believe that they're separate roles. Like, I don't believe automation is a separate role in itself, right? Because without having that knowledge of testing or the product, I don't think that you can be a good automation engineer, because then you will not have the answers of what to automate and how to prioritize. So automation is a subset of a bigger SDET charter or a bigger SDET role. That's the practical version of actual comparison between these two roles. Now coming to Mahesh's point that how SDET is bigger than automation, it's like
So the
automation.
exact question is the exact
Hmm.
question is what does an SDET do beyond automation tasks?
Yeah.
From your understanding.
Yeah. So SDET uses automation just to improve the release velocity and save his or her or the team's time
Takes
while
time.
having the regression or sanity or the feature testing. But what's the core value of an SDET is to do testing in a better and a deeper way. That's the core value of an SDET role. So as I stated in the beginning also, let's connect everything that we do when we are testing to user impact, business impact, and the engineering. So
Engineering
one
team.
is that, and setting the second is bearing the flag of quality being everyone's responsibility and implementing it practically according again to the structure and the size of your organization, by opening channels with cross-functional teams and understanding the entire SDLC model in different phases, and being contributing in whatever way we can in these different phases. So that's, I think, that holds more importance than the automation.
Got it. Interesting. I think we are 10 minutes to time, and we should end this today on time, because a lot of people have, as I said in the beginning, extended their days, their work day to day till
Yeah.
10 p.m. and they've been very gracious to join us at this point of time also. So last two questions: how do you see the SDET role evolving over the next few years? And there's a supplementary question to this, which was always someone: how can SDET? So not exactly supplementary, but I'm just plugging this so that as many questions get answered. Is how the exact question is about performance. How can an SDET contribute towards load testing / performance testing? So not related. We're just plugging them together so that as many questions get answered. Yeah.
Okay, let's quickly go to the growth of SDET role, right? So
Evolution.
Evolution. So first of all, let's agree. Then, I believe that SDET role has been till now able to do what it was brought for, right? To reduce the gap between QA and dev, as we discussed in the starting, and also to show us a bigger picture for quality and testing and other aspects of user experience and so on. Now, going forward, I personally feel that it would not be sustainable for the industry to have two parallel roles of QA and SDET with so much overlapping boundary. So 5 years or 7 years down the line, I'm expecting these two roles to merge into a much larger quality engineering, or you can say I don't know which acronym will pop up in next 5 years, but into a much larger and a combined role. That's what I am saying. But if you ask me also, what's the future of testing, then I think it given the competition in the market, given the choices that the user have today, the leadership and the companies are really investing into quality engineering, are really investing into teams. So I find that the prospect and the future of testing as an entire role very much bright, promising, and better than ever, provided
Correct.
we keep ourselves evolving and updated. Yeah, that's the condition.
I think that you answered somebody's question already, which I answered on behalf of everyone here. Is that does testing have a bright future like development? So I answered on behalf of everyone here already, and I think you also answered it at this moment. So which is
Definitely. And the second question I think you asked, if you answer very quickly, how can one also contribute to load and performance? Right.
Correct.
It is one. I doubt that it is explicit of the SDET boundaries. It is one of the very important aspects of our roles, like functional and non-functional testing, and the performance and load and all sorts of UX performance directly affects user experience, and
Correct.
directly hits the business on the most important days.
Exactly.
So I think it is one of an integral RNR of being and being an SDET. So you have to touch upon it and contribute.
Got it. There are a lot of questions coming on specific tools, specific company interviews, specific that. I think in the interest of time and for the larger discussions, we will not take them right now. You can DM Sahil one-on-one on LinkedIn or on Discord community. We can take it there. Lot of if you put it on Discord community, a lot of others can also help you answer this question. But in the interest of time and larger discussion, we'll not take specific questions related to tools or companies right now. I think for the we had one question on business perspective which you already answered. So there is this question which is coming repeatedly from Rashid. What were your sources when you learned DSL? What were your sources? Let's say if you have to give your sources, your secret sauce of learning DSL. I think that's your trying to ask.
Okay. So yeah, I've always believed in sharing, my humble experiences and the sources as well. So yes, I personally started with exactly on those lines by reading other people's code, by understanding what logic are they trying to break, and by finding a small errors or mistakes in other people's code. So that's called like debugging in more technical terms, like debugging and maybe trying to fixing errors also. uh, Especially if already someone is working on automation in your team or in parallel team. That was my starting point. Then I tried to develop the DS and algo skills using daily solving of competitive programming. So that really helps you to exercise your brain, and as I said, form patterns of solving those coding questions in interviews. So my source was LeetCode and other platforms like Hacker. And for DS and Algo, you can even touch upon your BTech or your graduation or master's degree textbooks. They are the most I would say exhaustive source of information or knowledge that you can find anywhere. So I even touched upon that the books of DS Algo from my master's and the bachelor's degree, that really helped me to clear the fundamentals and then build upon it using YouTube and other sources. So yeah, that were, I think, the starting steps when I started my journey.
Got it. I think that's a very well point. I remember the DS book from 14 years back. Tenenbaum, the author, the DS.
Exactly.
It used to be it used to be yellow colored at that point of time. I'm not sure what color
Now
it is today.
it has turned blue. It has turned blue, but yeah, the
author is same. Good. Last question. We have touched on this in parts. How can a SDET have a more business perspective towards it, which is very important, which you realize through this session, that business perspective is very important. How do they achieve this business perspective? And while you answer, there's a feedback form dropping to all of you on the chat. Please feel free to fill this. It'll help us improve. It'll help Sahil improve. And please do this. And question to you, Sahil, is how does somebody get a business perspective as an SDET?
Yes, I think that's very, very important. So first, spend just a few seconds in understanding that it is very important. Once we understand, we automatically become curious and ask questions in that in that space. So having a business perspective really makes our decision making better, more data oriented, and more factual. Right? It will automatically help you to prioritize your task, your automation strategies, your test plans, as well as the bugs in a more efficient manner, and that is best for the business as well.
Correct.
So we must have heard of the Pareto's rule, the 80-20 principle, right? So that says that 20% of your product starter or your application would be bringing 80% of the revenue. So it's very important to know that 20% which is bringing you most of your revenue, so that you can include that in sanity, regression, automation charters, and make decisions accordingly, which is good for the organization as a whole. Now, how can we do that is you again build a channel with data team, build a channel with product team, ask question, ask how many of us have like to ask what was the result of the last AB experiment that we dropped on production. So asking these kind of questions would help opening those channels of information and help you to connect the dots and get a business perspective and metrics. Also there in companies and organization, there are also many dashboards available, so you can get access to them, restricted access of course, and do your own research. definitely that's a very good point.
Got it. Got it. I think, Sahil, we have touched a lot of questions. I think we originally planned about 10, 12 questions. We have almost touched typical 20, 25 questions today. Some of
Awesome.
them were not a part of the initial list, but I think you answered them pretty well. In the interest of time, and I think in the interest of theme which we had, we have covered a lot of questions, and we will end this here. And for people who have specific questions on tools on companies, I think it is better to reach out on Discord to the entire community, or if you want to reach out to specifically to Sahil, you can reach out to him on LinkedIn. I think he should be able to help you there. And so thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, and thank you so much, Sahil, for taking time out on a Wednesday evening and not watching the match today. So I think that's we're grateful to you for this, and thank you everyone for joining in once again.